Hello, continuing on now with our epithelial type tissues. We're going to talk about the special case of the glands in the body, and glands are also built from special types of epithelial tissue. All right, so what do we mean by a gland? There are many types of glands in the body, and glands consist of, so gland is something you should be familiar with, one or more cells. So a gland could be just one cell in some cases. Or you've got a group of cells, sometimes a large number, like a thyroid or a pituitary, something like that is going to be built from many cells. And what they do, they make and secrete a fluid that contains some sort of important substances. So those are glands. They secrete, they produce, and release something. All right, and so glands are going to be classified according to where that product goes. So an endocrine gland releases whatever it has secreted into the bloodstream. It'll eventually make it into the blood, so then the blood carries it around to various parts of the body. Exocrine glands secrete their substances into what we call ducts. Okay, and ducts are tubes that carry these substances to some sort of surface. So that surface could be the skin in the case of like a sweat gland, or any gland in your body that produces something that winds up on a mucous membrane. So you've got some sort of pathway to the outside along that lining where that substance has been released. That's called an exocrine secretion. It's coming from an exocrine gland. So for example, your salivary glands are exocrine, not endocrine. They're exocrine because they produce saliva that winds up inside your mouth. Any glands that make mucus winds up along these linings in your body, these mucous membrane linings. Okay, so if they're not going into the blood, those substances are winding up on a mucous membrane lining. Those are going to be examples of exocrine glands. All of your hormone-producing glands are endocrine glands. So the pituitary, your thyroid, your adrenal glands are endocrine glands, and so forth and so on. You'll learn a lot more about those in biology. 202. Glands can also be classified according to the number of cells that make them. There are unicellular glands, which consist of just one single cell. Multicellular glands, you've got a group of cells that are involved in producing the substance that gets secreted. All right, so this figure shows you these are all of the major endocrine glands in the body. And yes, it does include the ovaries in females, the testes in males, because those make our sex hormones. And so again, these glands secrete hormones. Those are chemical messengers that get into your body fluids. They get into the blood. The blood takes them throughout the body to all parts of the body. They get distributed everywhere. Those types of glands do not have ducts, so they don't have these little tubes that carry the substances. When these glands release their substances, they just go into the surrounding tissue fluids, and then they wind up moving from there into blood vessels so that they can be carried throughout the body. So those are endocrine glands. Your exocrine glands, you have a lot more of these throughout the body than endocrine glands. They secrete their substances into ducts, as we've already talked about. And again, they go onto some sort of body surfaces or a body cavity where you have openings to the outside. So these include your mucus-producing glands, your sweat glands, the oil-producing glands in the skin, your salivary glands. Your pancreas is actually largely an exocrine gland because it makes a lot of digestive enzymes that get secreted into your small intestine to help you break down your foods. And the digestive tract is lined with a mucous membrane because you do have an opening. You have two openings, one on one end and one end on the other, eventually. All right, I'm bringing out this slide to show you a little bit more detail about a special kind of unicellular exocrine gland. These are called goblet cells, which everybody always likes that name. You find these in your mucous membranes. So they're embedded in there within those epithelial linings of your mucous membranes. This is one magnified to a huge degree. These little microvilli you see here, those are little plasma membrane waves you have there on the surface, as we talked a little bit about before. So what these cells do is they produce a lot of mucus, and they package that mucus up inside little membrane-covered vesicles inside the cells. And when you need to release mucus onto the mucous membrane lining up here, those little vesicles do exocytosis, where they travel up to the surface, and then the membrane of the vesicle melts into the plasma membrane or fuses with the plasma membrane, and those contents get dumped out. Again, that was called exocytosis. So that they basically spit out all this mucus onto the surface of that body lining there. All right, your multicellular exocrine glands, again, you're going to have the gland itself, and then that's going to be connected to a tube that's going to carry the secreted substances to whatever surface it is. So that tube is going to be the duct. The rest is going to be the secretory unit. So that's going to be a cluster of cells that produce whatever it is that's going to be secreted. And you'll see some examples of these when we study the skin in a little bit more detail, because your sweat glands and your oil-producing glands are exocrine type glands. And you'll see what their ducts look like and what their little secretory units look like. They have their own little special characteristics. Okay, multicellular exocrine glands can be classified according to their duct type and the structures of their secretory units, what shapes they have. And some examples of those are shown to you on, this is figure 4.5 from your textbook, and I do not expect you to memorize all of these different multicellular exocrine gland shape structures. I think you guys already have plenty of information to learn for this particular unit. So I just put this up here to show you some of the variation you would have with various types of exocrine glands in the body. So they will vary according to how the ducts are built and shaped and what the secretory units, these deeper portions. For instance, this is from a type of gland called a duodenal gland in the small intestine. So down in here, these are the cells that actually secrete the substances made by those glands, and then here you have your ducts that carry those substances up to the inside lining of the small intestine. All right. So that actually concludes epithelial tissues. Our next topic, we're going to move on to the different types of connective tissues that we have in the body.